So let's review the coding challenge, upper intermediate. Question number 1. Oh, that was a piece of cake, guys. That was free sugar. Especially because out of coincidence, we reviewed that, we learned that, I think yesterday, or 2 days, it was actually yesterday. So you see, the code is actually inviting us to solve the problem using the rest parameter. So what the problem is, we got a function called getMeanValue that receives an array. And we want to find what the mean value out of the list of numbers is. Of course, we could use a loop, we could use reduce, I don't know, we could use a technique, a looping technique. However, there is a much simpler way to solve the problem. So you know that in JavaScript, there is something called math.min. So if I have a list of numbers, and then I got numbers, so is that gonna work, guys? That's correct. That's correct. Remember, math.min unfortunately doesn't play with our arrays, so we need to spread the numbers as we learned yesterday. Yeah. So then we can do something like that, and then is that what numbers are? Numbers, right? Number. Oh, come on, guys. I can do that. Let me start the over. Right. Of course, I did it on purpose, right? Let's see if you were paying attention. All right. So that's it, right? Numbers. So let me have a look to what you did. All right, let's actually, I believe everyone did pretty much the same thing. It's about semantics. It's all about semantics. So for instance, Elena called it array numbers. Yeah, not too bad. Values, numbers. So I'm gonna complain massively about just one of your proposals. Can anyone figure out where my finger is at the moment? Who is the responsible of my concerns? I may complain about Elena's because array numbers, but that's okay. It's an array of numbers, so you know that's okay. However, my big concern is about Vicky here, because if I go, not always. That's not fair. That's not always. I'm talking about this particular case, right? Vicky, can you figure out why? No, I don't care. That's bullshit. Sorry. So how many? Look, if you call it number, to me, the impression you give me, if I want to integrate with your function, is that your getMeanValue receives one number. One number. Yeah. However, that's not true. You receive multiple numbers. Yeah. So that's what we call numbers. Actually, I'll tell you something. I call it numbers, but now I'm gonna change my mind. I think values is gonna work a bit better. Can anyone tell me why I prefer values over numbers, even though this is just a subtle detail? Well, if we got the no, then that's not gonna work. Then we will have to change the function if we want to deal with other data types. No, that's not the reason. No, called. The answer is much simpler than that. What's the name of the function, guys? getMeanValue. I'll tell you what's probably the most tiring thing of working with junior developers. The most exhausting part of working with junior developers is the lack of consistency with the semantics. They got a function called getMeanValue, and then they call argument numbers. And then if they want to get the first element because of whatever reason, they create a new variable and they call it x equals number 0. You see, guys, all the semantics, all the stress that the developer is introducing to the algorithm, yeah? Because it's using different semantics to talk about the same thing. Oh, what the hell? Oh, that's strange. Someone is playing. All right, cool. So it's more people playing. All right, I try to ignore that. So get minimum value and then numbers and then x. You know, guys, keep one topic. I don't care. I don't care if you call it numbers. Numbers could be absolutely fine. But if you call it numbers, then call the method getMeanNumber. If the method name is offered already and is getMeanValue, then call it value or values all the time. Yeah. So I know it's a subtle detail, but that makes a difference. And to me, the reason why I'm telling you that is not just because of you to remember, because I'm sure you'll do it right. It's because you got a good opportunity to highlight that in a job interview. You're going to be part of a pairing exercise. So you're going to sit with a senior developer, and they will ask you to do something like that, and you have to explain. What they want is not you just to prove whether you can solve the algorithm, because I'm sure you'll be able to solve it. It's how do you express, how do you react, how do you share your thoughts. So you get a good opportunity to say, all right, we could use numbers, but to be more precise with the semantics, let's call it values. Any questions? No? That was easy, right? That was actually probably the I don't know what we have the next, but that was actually the easiest question in the entire challenge. All right, question number 2. That's more complicated. That's clearly more complicated. So. Let's try to understand what the problem is. By the way, I didn't create this question, so that was created by a former student. You know, guys, you are more than invited to contribute to Codery, to add new questions, and you know the community will enjoy playing with you, or will suffer depending on how difficult they are, right? But yeah, you'll be credited, so that's something that you can obviously link on your CV, like I've been collaborating with Codery by adding questions. You'll get metrics, how many people has played with your question, what's the average score, so that will give you a feeling whether the challenge is too complicated or too simplistic, you know, this type of things. So Fares, some months ago, he created a good bunch of questions, and this is one of them. So puzzle pieces. So look, we have a function with 2 arrays of numbers. And then the idea is we want to add its index. So 1 plus 4, 5. 2 plus 3, 5. 3 plus 2, 5. 4 plus 1, 5. So we want to know whether all the operations, index 0 plus index 0, index 1 plus index 1, index 2 plus index 2, index 3 plus index 3, they all return the same value. So why the first use case scenario returns true? Because all the operations return 5. 1 plus 4, 5, 2 plus 3, 5, blah, 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 blah. For instance, why the third use case scenario returns false? What is 1 plus minus 1? 0. What is 2 plus minus 1? 1. Is 0 equal to 1? No, it's not the same, right? So yeah, I really like this exercise because there are so many different ways of solving it. Yeah. If you check the first time I solved the problem, I'm pretty sure I use reduce, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You can use reduce to solve the problem. However, today I'm gonna use something different. I'm gonna use something called every. I don't know why that method is not very popular across the JavaScript community, but you know, the more I use it, the more I like it. So how every works? Every tells you whether every element in the list satisfies a condition. So for instance, if I got a list of numbers equals 1, 2, 3, imagine that I want to know if every number is positive. So something you can do is return numbers.every number. So the signature is very similar to find, filter, you know, it's the same thing, yeah? Every, and then you got the function. So then now you can do number is greater than 0. You see how simple this is, yeah? So every will return a Boolean. It will be true if every single condition is matched. It will be false if at least one condition is not satisfied. Yeah? That's every. Every plays really well with another method called sum. That works on the other way around. So sum will return true if at least one condition is satisfied. And sum will return false if all the conditions are not satisfied. Yeah? You can think every is some sort of and. Yeah? So the first element is greater than 0, and the second element is greater than 0, and the third element is greater than 0, while sum is some sort of or. Return true if the first element is greater than 0, or the second element is greater than 0, or the third element is greater than 0. Does it make sense? All right, so I'm going to apply that strategy, that idea in this algorithm. So first of all, I got two arrays, right? So let me call it numbers 1 and numbers 2. Not very happy about the naming conventions, but we're talking about numbers for sure. So look at what I'm going to do. So again, and there are so many ways I can solve the problem using map. So I'm gonna create a new array called let me call it array 1. No, I don't like that word in. So I'm gonna call it numbers or added, something like that. And then look at what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do numbers 1 dot map. I'm going to do something, and then you are going to tell me what the hell I'm trying to do. Look. I got number, and I got index, and I'm going to return number plus numbers 2 of index. Can anyone tell me what the hell numbers added is going to look like, for instance, in the first use case scenario? Number 5. That's it, one element. Yeah, I'm talking about the first example. Yeah, that's correct. I'm creating a new array using map. Map, remember guys, iterate over an array and returns another array of the same size. So what is the content of the new array? Well, on the first element of the new array, of the first index, it will be whatever the first number was, 1, yeah, plus whatever you got on the first element, you see, index 0, on the other array. So I'm doing 1 plus 5, and then I will do 2 plus 3, and then I will do 3 plus 2, and then I will do 4 plus 1. And that's correct. That will eventually return an array of 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5. Yep. And then you may be thinking, why is he doing that? Because now, if I got that, look at what I can do. I can do numbers added dot every. I want to see if all the numbers are the same. How can I know if all the numbers are the same? Well, something I do is I can check if all the numbers are the same as, for instance, the first one. So I can do, look, I want to see if every number is the same as the first one. You see? So the first number will be 5. Is 5 equal to 5? Yes. Then we'll jump to the second number, 5. Is 5 equal to the first number, 5? Yes. So you see, I'm comparing every number against the first one. What happened in the third use case scenario? We got 1, 2, and 2, 1. Can anyone tell me what the value of numbers added will be in the third use case scenario? So you think it will be 0 and minus 1. I'm not particularly convinced about that. Why minus 1, Lauren? That's correct. 0 and 1, yeah? That's correct, because 1 plus 1 is 0, 2 plus minus 1 is 1. No, so that's 0 and 1. Fine, fine, fine. That looks good. And now the thing is, look, we're going to compare every number against the first one. So on the first case, is 0 equal to the first number, which is 0? Yes. In the second iteration, is 1 equal to 0? No. So because not every number in the list satisfies the condition, that should return false. Let's see if it works. Look. It almost worked, but it failed on the last assertion on the last use case scenario. Can anyone tell me why? That's correct. That's correct. This algorithm is checking just the first 3 elements of the array. And on the first 3 elements, it's all good, right? 3 on 3. But it is ignoring the 4th one. So something we can do is, look, first of all, I want to check if both arrays have the same size. Because if they don't have the same size, this is not going to work. So I can do numbers 1.length equal numbers 2.length. Then do that. Else, what should I return, guys? Otherwise, that's correct. Return false. Okay? So that's the way I can control that I want to apply the operation only if I'm playing with the same rules. If all the elements have the same number of numbers. Yeah? I'm not particularly happy about this algorithm because I find this is quite complex. So look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to create, I'm a big fan of creating small functions, and that's something that I encourage you to do, right? So I want to move that part into a new function. We'll see how I call it in a minute. You see? I'm separating, I'm dividing the complexity of my algorithm. So I'm going to call that function, how should I call it? I don't know. It's something I used to do, and I'm not convinced if that's a good technique or not. But when you want to do an action, but in some conditions the action may not apply, like this case, so I got the function name, and then when I really know I can trigger the action, I can execute it, I create another function called do, or exec, or run, I don't know. It's a way to say, hey, yes, really, I really know now, without any if else, I really now know that I really want to play with that method, right? So I will add numbers 1 and then numbers 2. So then I can just call the function, and then you can see that the code became a bit simpler because essentially I'm simplifying my logic, you see? So if I can run the function, then go for it, else just return false. Is there a way to simplify this algorithm a bit? That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Lauren. That's brilliant. So first of all, that's the answer is perfect, but you jump some steps here. So let me go one step behind what you are trying to do. Guys, we've got an if else. How can we easily replace an if else into something simpler? Ternary, that's correct, Maxime. That's correct, Maxime. We can replace that with a ternary operator. So with a ternary operator, then we can do return. So if that condition is truthy, then yes, do puzzle pieces. Else, false. Yeah, that's fine. You see, slightly simpler. And if we run it, it works. But now, look at what Lauren was suggesting. What Lauren was suggesting was to use the AND operator. She was suggesting to do something like that. Oh, that's quite long, so let me move things around. And that's correct. You remember, guys, the AND operator, how powerful it is? If the first condition is truthy, then we will return the last one. If the first condition is falsy, if both arrays have a different size, then we are not going to do anything. Yeah, that part is going to be ignored. So that is definitely a different way of solving the same problem. Quite clever, quite smart. Questions? If the first array, no, this is not whether the first array is truthy or falsy. This is whether the first expression, that's expression. Yeah. That's correct. That's correct, Maxime. That's absolutely right. If the first expression is truthy, it will return whatever the second one returns. Yeah? But if the first expression is falsy, yeah, exactly. Well, it's not do nothing. If the first expression is falsy, then return it, whatever it is. Yeah, return it. Return it. Yeah. Any questions? No? Okay, if that any helps, that was probably the most complicated question. You see, something, guys, something interesting. I'm not gonna reveal what your colleagues did, but if you want some homework, I will like to invite you to analyze what Elena and Lauren did, because they both solved the problem, and you can see they follow different styles. So, for instance, Elena wrote a for loop, and Lauren did something different and something quite interesting as well. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how she did that. The only thing I'm gonna tell you is set is a new method, it's a new structure rather than a new method. It's a new structure in JavaScript that keeps unique values. So she's doing something quite clever here, right? So she's creating a set out of the total. So that's the total I created before. So if I get only one number, that means that all the numbers are the same. Yeah? So that's quite clever. Not sure, Lauren, if you added a break line here. That's the only thing. I find that break line, I don't know, a bit strange. I mean, if I were you, I would personally create a new array, because I think it is a bit complex to read because of this map. Yeah, so I will create a new variable with a new array, and but yeah, but the idea is great. The idea is just fantastic. Yeah, cool, good stuff, guys. Well, actually, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna upvote because I think that's guys, you can vote code snippets, and that's a way to tell other developers, yeah, someone likes what that person did. All right, so yeah, let's go to question number, unless you had any questions, let's jump to question number 3. Merge arrays. That was much easier. Yeah, that was much easier. However, once again, even though I'm sure everybody, if not today, in a couple of weeks, will know how to solve the problem, I see many developers failing to argue what they did here. In this occasion, I'm gonna present at least 2 different ways of solving the problem. So, first of all, I got numbers 1 and numbers 2. So, something I could do is return numbers1.concat numbers 2. And that's gonna work. Fine. Okay, well, actually, look, I'll tell you something. That's a good point. I didn't even notice that you were asked to do something in a particular way. But, okay, fair enough. We'll do that in a second. But I'm trying to present options, yeah? So that's option 1, using concat. Option 2, let's follow the instructions. How can we solve the problem using the rest parameter, guys? What do you think, guys? Is Vicky right or wrong? Cool. I can tell you something, Vicky. This week you are on top of the board challenge leaderboards. You are 0.25 points ahead of someone else. So I'm not gonna say who is that, right? So cool. That was a draw. Now you're ahead. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's correct. Yeah, if we run that code, that works as well. Do you know, guys, any other way of joining 2 arrays? That's correct. I'm not, yeah, with push. I'm not going to tell you whether that is beautiful or not, but technically speaking, we could do something. We could do numbers1.for. Look, so no, on the other way around. So for each number, we can use a for loop if you want it as well. Yeah. So for each number in numbers 2, and I can do numbers1.push number, and then return numbers. So you see, that's a third way of solving the problem. This technique, push, has a couple of caveats. First of all, you need to write more code, right? The more you write, the more you are likely to fail. That's obvious. There's a second caveat. If you do push, you are essentially altering, you are modifying the original array. Yeah? I'm not gonna tell you the implications of modifying arrays. Someone is gonna talk about, was that Maxime? Value versus reference? Correct. So as part of the workshop, Maxime will probably explain the consequences of modifying arrays. So here we are creating what we call an impure function, because the function has an input, numbers 1 and numbers 2, and then we are modifying the input. You know, guys, when you go on holidays and you leave your apartment, and a friend of you is coming to London, and you are not here, but of course it's your friend, so you give him or her the keys, so you don't need to rent a room in a hotel. You know these things, right? So when you go back to holidays, you go back from holidays, how do you want to see your apartment? Do you want to see that the tenant has painted the walls and has changed the furniture, or do you want to find the apartment exactly as you left it? You don't want someone to change your rooms and your furniture, and you don't want that, right? Yeah, exactly. Especially, well, you don't want that. You leave your keys to someone you trust. That's fine, but don't change anything. So that's a good example. You are offering your data to a function, and now your function is changing your data. That's unfair. Yeah, that's what we call that. This is an impure function. The other two methods are pure, because the other two methods don't modify the input. They don't change numbers 1 and numbers 2. But that's a separate story. Let's ignore that for now. Ignoring that, and ignoring the difficulty of reading push, what we've learned here is that there are 3 ways of actually concatenating or joining arrays. So in a job interview, if I ask you, which one should you use? Imagine that I want to concatenate 1,000 arrays of 1,000 elements each. So which method should you use? All right, so here you are manually looping, but in reality, Lauren, here there is some looping happening in the background as well. So you point to the right direction. So it's all about performance, yeah, definitely. So which one is more performant? Is it push? Is it concat? Or is it rest? So what's the rank, guys? So it's first rest, you said, and then what's the next? And the push. Let me tell you, you are massively wrong. That's not correct. So the most performant one, by distance, is push. Then we got rest. And finally, ultra slow, concat. The reason why concat is so slow is because it is actually clever. It is very smart. It analyzes the data. It runs multiple operations in the background, which I'm not going to discuss now. But the thing is, concat is very slow. If you search on Google, you'll find out some articles. Look. JavaScript array.push is 945 times faster than array.concat. Yeah, I can tell you something. I don't believe that. I don't think that's true anymore. I'm not telling that the author didn't say the truth. Probably that, I'm sure that was true at the time she wrote the article. That was 1 year ago or something. But I'll tell you something. Obviously, browsers keep changing, and browsers tend to improve the performance of the slow operations. So since this article was written, Concat now is more performant. Yeah, it's more performant. Actually, look, literally 20 minutes ago, I ran a test. Here, you can find the number of operations per second dealing with arrays comparing push, spread. Spread is the rest operator, yeah, in the spread mode, because it spreads the numbers. Push versus spread versus concat. You see, with push, we can run 28 million operations per second. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. 28. So we can add 28 million elements to an array per second. That's a lot. Spread is decent, 17 million operations per second. But look at concat. You see, concat is 96% slower than push. Yeah, I think push based on that is 20, 25, 26 times faster than concat, not 1,000 times faster. But still, the evidence is there, right? That push is way more relevant. I'm not telling you that if you want to compare or to add apple banana with pineapple, this is going to make a difference, right? So at some point we need to be pragmatic. I mean, if I had to concatenate or to join, to merge a small data set, I will definitely use either concat or the spread operator. Yeah, but just bear in mind, it's good to know from a programming culture point of view that from a performance point of view, push is the best one still today, and things that can change. Right? That can change in the future. I don't believe concat is ever gonna be faster than push, because as I told you, according to the ECMAScript standard, concat runs some extra operations in the background. So by nature, concat is gonna be slower than push always. But that gap, it was 95%, it was at 1,000 times slower. Now it's only 25 times slower. So that gap can get closer and closer over time. Any questions? No, but that flat, that's with nested arrays. That's correct. We'll talk about flat the last day of the bootcamp, because on the last day of the bootcamp, we're going to run a special workshop about the future of JavaScript. So I'd like to introduce which methods have been added in the last year and which methods are going to be added in the next year or this summer. Yeah. So yeah, I'll talk about flat in the last day of the bootcamp. But no, you cannot use flat here, I'm afraid. All right. So what you did here? So Elena, REST operator. I mean, I think most of you use the REST operator because you follow the instructions, apart from Max and Rafa, who ignore them, right? Let's talk about. Yeah, cool. Fair enough. Something interesting here, guys, is, look, let's pay attention to the naming conventions. Look, I'm gonna disagree with myself, something I did, and I just noticed by reading your code. Look, I call it numbers 1 and numbers 2. But my question is, yeah, but exactly. So the thing is that function gonna work fine if instead of passing an array of numbers, I pass an array of strings, like fruits? Is the function gonna work? Are we running any mathematical operation here? Are we adding, multiplying, or anything like that? No, we're just joining arrays. So that function is abstract enough to play well with multiple data types, strings, booleans, whatever. Because of that, the argument names are not good enough. Because here I'm very opinionated. I'm telling the developers this algorithm works with numbers, which is true, but in reality it plays with any data type. That's why I like what you did. Some of you did array 1, array 2, because it plays with any type of arrays. Yeah. So it's good to be precise, as far as you're in a good position to be precise. In this particular case, we cannot be precise, right? Because this method will play well regardless of what the data is. So I think it's better to be agnostic, to be a bit more generic. Yeah. So yeah, nice. I like the naming conventions that you follow. You all follow here. Cool. Anything else, guys? No. All right. So we got time for one last question. Let me have a look to what we got, and then we'll see if you got any particular preference. So let me first of all check what you got. Switch it up. All right, so this is about string manipulations, and then are the numbers consecutive? Yeah, I think they got a similar difficulty. Guys, do you have any particular preference about playing with strings or numbers? Okay, fair enough. Then let's do this one. All right. So are consecutive numbers? That's a good question. That actually is a good way to prove your coding abilities, yeah, in terms of algorithms and stuff like that. So the question is crystal clear, right? So are the numbers consecutive? So 1, 2, 3, yes, they're consecutive. 4, 5, and 7, they are not consecutive. This question is, I'll say, a bit harder to solve than it seems. I don't know. I'm just thinking. This is another classic example where if I had to solve the problem 2 years ago, I would use reduce. But now I'm going to use every again. Yeah? Because with every, I can check if every number is the same as the previous one plus 1. Yeah? So with every, I think this problem is easier to solve than using reduce. I have nothing against reduce, but you'll end up building something slightly more complicated. So look, here, guys, tell me the best argument name possible. Numbers. I could use values, but if I use values, I'm redefining the semantics of my algorithm. So if the function name is are consecutive numbers, the argument name should be called numbers. Yeah. So now look, I'm gonna look at my strategy. So I'm gonna do return numbers dot every. So now, again, I got the number and the index. So my idea is to check if every number is the same as the numbers in the previous index plus 1. That should be it, somehow. See, if a given number, so for instance, number 3, is the same as the previous number plus 1, 2 plus 1, that means that this pair of numbers are consecutive. So if every pair of numbers is consecutive, that means that the whole sequence is consecutive. Is that going to work? Well, I'll tell you, that's not going to work. Can anyone see why? It's very close, but it's not going to work. No, that's not. I mean, that's fine. You can add 47 parentheses here if you want, but that's not necessary because JavaScript will be smart enough to compare. When you got the equal symbol, JavaScript will, calculate whatever the output of that expression is, and it will compare it against that one. So no, parentheses aren't necessary. Well, no, but that's what we want, right? With every, we want all the pairs 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. We want all the pairs to be consecutive, yeah? -1 and minus 2 and -1, then -1 and 0, then 0 and 1, and then 1 and 2. If just one of these evaluations fail, then the whole thing is over, yeah? So that's not gonna work. Elena? Look, I got bad news for Vicky because she's not in the lead of the board challenge this week. That's correct, Elena. That's correct. What happened in the first iteration? So what's the first index? All right, let's have a look. So iteration 1. So let's play some some games here. So I got a question for not sure Max, for instance. So Max, what's the first number? Yes, yes, yeah. For instance, that's correct. So the first number Max is 1. That's correct. And now I got a question. Let me think about the index. Elia, are you around? I'll take that as a no. I'm not sure if Rafa is connected. Maybe he's connected. Maybe he can share some thoughts on the chat. Actually, I think it's just easy if I check who's in, right? I'm just guessing. All right, so Rafa is connected. Elena Eli is not connected. So I got a question now for Maxim. Maxim, can you please tell me what's the first index? Yep, that's correct. The first index is 0. You know, that's pretty fundamental, but that will help us to understand what the eventual issue is. All right, and now I got a question for either Elijah, Aaron is not in, or Rafa. That's it. Any of you? I want you to tell me what's the value of numbers in index +1. Right, I don't think I'm going to get any feedback from them. So then I will open the question to anybody, including Lauren, Elena, and Vicky. What is number of index -1 going to return? Error. Yeah, I believe that's going to return undefined because index is 0. What do you have in the index -1? Nothing. So that's going to probably be undefined. And now, what is undefined +1 gonna return? Question for everybody. It's a domino effect, that's correct. So undefined plus -1 is gonna return what? Not a number, that's correct, Lauren. That's correct, Lauren. This is gonna be not a number. So you see the problem, right? Is the first number 1 equal, not a number? No. So then that's it, right? There's nothing else to check. So that's gonna fail on every single iteration. I mean, it's gonna work in the cases that the answer is no, they are not consecutive, right? But in every scenario where the numbers are supposed to be consecutive, we're gonna be unable to facilitate the answer. So the thing is, on the first iteration, there is nothing to do, right? Is the previous number +1? Sorry, is number 1 equal the previous one +1? It doesn't make sense. The first number, there is nothing to compare. So there are different ways to solve the problem. Something we can do is, if I got index, so, you know, if index is 1, 2, 3, 4, then okay. Else, what? I don't know. What do we want to say on the first iteration? No, wrong. I don't wanna do any of that. Much easier. So guys, can this algorithm return false? So can it be broken at the end of the first iteration? Can a number by itself not to be consecutive with the previous one? No. So on the first iteration, we don't care. We don't want to do anything on the first iteration. So if we don't want to do anything, let's just return true, right? On the first iteration, index 0, yeah, true, whatever. Yes, you know, we're passing the ball to the next one. We want every element in the array to return truthy. Yeah. So you can put here true. So then we are passing the control to iterations 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. If you do that, then you get confetti. Questions? Well, domino effect is, you know, exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. You know, All right, so then do something. Guys, that's fine. Guys, that's a bad excuse. I'm not asking you to understand that right now. I never ask you to understand things in real time. Actually, I'm a pretty terrible person understanding things while someone is explaining them to me. What I'm asking you, no, but listen, Max, guys, what you need to do is take that snippet, go to DevTools, go to the playground, not to DevTools, sorry, go to VS Code, playground, paste it, and play with it, right? Play with it. Try to build it by yourself. Say it again, Max. Yeah, of course, but that's, guys, I hope that's not the first time you get that. I mean, from the first day, I've been telling you the same thing. I mean, and that's particularly easy when talking about JavaScript because you can play easily on VS Code, right? Drop it on VS Code, add breakpoints, build that matrix. Guys, that matrix is going to help you massively. Iteration 1, what's the value of number, what's the index, all these things, right? Build that. Even if you find that it's a bit unnecessary to talk about the index because that's crystal clear, that's not. Having the big picture with all the variables on the screen can massively help you to determine the eventual outcome of the algorithm. And once again, I'm not even telling you that's the easiest or that's the best way of solving the problem. There are other ways. I'm sure you follow different techniques. I'm just trying to present you one option. I'm sure someone is going to use a for loop. Someone is going to do something like for I equals 0, I less than numbers dot length, and then I plus plus, and then so I equals 1 actually. I'm sure someone has done that. If you see, if numbers on index I is not the same as numbers on index I plus I minus 1 plus 1, then return false. And then here return true. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. Then it works, yeah? Obviously here we need to initialize the variable, but you know, that's pretty much it. So definitely there are multiple ways to solve the same problem. And that's something I will encourage you to do. So once you understood one of these techniques, regardless of which one you feel more comfortable with, try to build it again following a different technique. Using a for loop, using every, and of course using reduce. I will strongly recommend you to try to solve the problem using reduce because that's very, very powerful. Let me have a look to your code. All right, yeah, that's fine, but you can now keep practicing, right? So once again, guys, remember that JavaScript is hard to master, but this is all about practicing and repeating, and yeah, and if you know any shortcut, I'll pay for that. So you see, Elena, she did something slightly different. So she iterated, so she started from 0 and she didn't go until the end, but that's pretty much the same thing. She added a weird space here. I don't know what the space means. That's the only thing. But that's pretty much the same thing. So Lauren, she tried to do something similar. So she tried, first of all, to build an array and then checking whether, you know, all the values were truthy, something like that. It didn't work for her. But yeah, that's a mix between both algorithms. The only thing I'm not particularly happy about what Lauren did is either following for or every as I did. How many times we iterate? We iterate once, yeah, more or less. Not more or less, we did it once. So Lauren has to iterate twice. First to build the accessory array, and then she needs to iterate again to check whether all the elements are consecutive. And then you see that Max, he actually, yes, he tried to solve the problem using every. And then Vicky, oh nice, Vicky, I like that. That's great because you can compare, you can find a new way to solve the problem using reduce. You see, the reason why I'm not using reduce anymore is because that, I think that expression, it's a bit complicated eventually. Look, that's a bit complicated, but I really appreciate your efforts. I will, yeah, definitely. I will never complain about someone just reducing this case scenario because even though the result is a bit more complicated, at least you proved you are a good developer if you can use Reduce here, because it is difficult. Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else? Any final thoughts? No. All right. So once again, go back to the playground, start playing. Let me know if you need any help. Let me know if you find any issues with the new layout in the platform. Yeah, and apart from that, I'll see you later on. So thank you very much, guys, and see you later.